Misinformation. Part 1. Identifying and communicating about misinformation. Ideas about vaccines can spread quickly, even if they aren't true. The spread of false information and feelings of confusion can be common during a pandemic, when people may receive conflicting information from different sources, like the media, friends, or family. Just like the virus itself, rumors and falsehoods flow from person to person, causing what the World Health Organization now calls a universal infodemic. This can cause panic, confusion, and stop us from taking life-saving steps like getting a COVID-19 vaccine. Trends in false information change over time, and community health workers are at the front of addressing concerns in their communities. In this video, we will prepare you for the evolving discussions to address false information or confusion about vaccination. We will discuss how to identify misinformation and key strategies for communicating with others about misinformation. We will also address several common myths about COVID-19 vaccines and see what effective conversations with community members about these myths look like in practice. How to identify misinformation. There are two types of false information to look out for: misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation is false information that is shared by accident. It was not created or shared with the intention of hurting people. Disinformation, on the other hand, is false information created and shared with the intention of causing harm. For example, to create fear about a vaccine. In either case, people are vulnerable to false information when they already have very real concerns. As community health workers, it is important that we always share information that is based on proven facts and to help correct the false information when we are asked. We should also be honest when we do not know the answer to a person's question about something they have heard. But how can we be sure we have reliable information? How can we guide people in our communities to prevent the spread of misinformation? Sometimes it can be difficult to know the difference between fact and fiction when we hear new information. Here are some tips to guide you. First, know which are trusted sources for reliable and evidence-based information in your community. Some examples may be the local health authority or the World Health Organization. Then, whenever you hear something new that disagrees with these sources, pause with a little bit of doubt. If the message seems extreme or brings intense emotions, it may be misinformation. Then, read more than the headline. Headlines are often shocking in order to draw people in. Look for the entire story to understand more about the claim. Check the source. Learn who created the content and what their qualifications are. If it seems that they have something to gain from false information, they may be spreading disinformation. Check the quality. Look to see if the information is current or out of date. Stop if you notice spelling errors, all capital letters, or extreme language. Most importantly, look at multiple sources. Use your favorite search engine to see if you can find the same information in 3 trusted sources. If this is hard to do, or if known trusted sources do not agree, you may be reading misinformation. If you still have any doubt about something you have heard, avoid sharing it with others until you are able to gather more reliable information. All of these tips can be shared with community members to help them identify and avoid misinformation as well. Communicating about misinformation. Once you have gathered accurate and reliable information about the vaccine, you will hopefully feel ready to go out into the community to talk with others about it. When we visit people in the community or someone comes to us, we may feel equipped with facts. But how can we be sure that we communicate these facts effectively to promote vaccine confidence? One of the most effective ways to begin a conversation about hesitancy or misinformation is to listen to a person's story. Many things can shape someone's ideas about vaccines. They may not know what's in the vaccine. They may feel fearful of side effects, or they may not believe they are at risk of suffering from the COVID virus. Others may have had a negative experience with a vaccination in the past, or have strong feelings based on religious or cultural beliefs. Asking open-ended questions can help clarify why someone believes information. This is just as important as identifying misinformation in general. Understanding someone's story can help you respond with empathy and match your message to address their attitudes, beliefs, and values. Keep in mind, you may speak with some people who hold extreme and firm views about the vaccine. These individuals are unlikely to be swayed. However, each conversation over time may bring them one step closer to changing their mind. You may also speak with others who have specific reasons that are causing them to feel hesitant, afraid, or otherwise indecisive about receiving the vaccine, but seem willing to learn more or to have an open-minded conversation about these concerns. In all cases, people have a right to take part in decisions about matters affecting their health. This includes access to accurate information about illness and treatments, but also to accept or decline interventions such as the COVID-19 vaccine. Your ability to address the misinformation and the false ideas or myths that come from it by providing factual information with compassion is supportive of both. The following structure may help you organize information in a way that avoids reinforcing any misinformation. First, provide a brief statement of fact related to the myth or misinformation. In a few words, state the fact. This offers an alternative to occupy the space in one's mind that the misinformation previously held. This allows you to emphasize factual information instead of myths. Second, clearly identify or introduce the myth of concern. This prepares people so that they may be less likely to be influenced by misinformation. For example, you might say something like, "A common myth is." Third, explain the flaw in the myth or additional details about the facts and evidence that helps us to know that the myth is not true. The facts should be presented as simple and credible. You can use metaphors that are relatable to people or surprising facts to help illustrate why the alternative is correct. And finally, repeat the fact so that this is the last thing that someone hears. Now, let's see what this looks like when talking with people in our community. Part 2. Misinformation about COVID-19. Role play. Talking with a client about misinformation.
I hardly ever get sick. There's no way I'm getting a vaccine. It's useless for me. Save that stuff for the grandparents.
I'm glad to hear you aren't often sick. Still, I do want to mention that people of all ages can be infected by COVID-19. You may have heard the myth that young people do not need to get the vaccine because they are healthier and more resilient.
It's what we all talk about. Only one of my friends has gotten sick, and no one has been to hospital or died like you hear about on the news.
Yes, young and healthy people are more likely to survive if infected by COVID-19 than other populations. But evidence shows that being infected at all can cause long-term health problems. This is true even for those who did not have any health conditions before they were infected. Look, the vaccine is like a seatbelt. While we do not expect to be in a life-threatening accident, it is worth wearing for protection every time you drive. Getting the vaccine is a far safer option than getting the infection because it protects you from severe symptoms just like a seatbelt protects you from severe injury. In fact, the benefits of a COVID-19 vaccine far outweigh the risks for anyone eligible for vaccination. Think about your family and friends too. Even if you don't get very sick yourself, you may pass along the virus to others unknowingly, causing them to get very sick. Even if you don't get the vaccine for yourself, consider getting it to protect your community.
I see what you are saying, but even if I did get a vaccine, I'm worried about what happens later. I want to have children soon, and my friends all say that I won't get pregnant. And then if I do, my baby won't be safe.
This is a very important time in your life for these decisions, and I can imagine that hearing these things is stressful for you. Let's talk about both of these concerns. I want to reassure you that there is no evidence to suggest that COVID-19 vaccines affect fertility in men or women. Misinformation has spread about the vaccine and fertility, but in fact, it is becoming infected with COVID-19 virus that can impact fertility and make it difficult to have children. The vaccine protects you from this risk. The contents of the vaccines used for COVID-19 are not live viruses, and neither the ingredients nor the antibodies our immune system makes to protect against COVID-19 interact with the parts of our bodies that help us have babies.
I see. And what about pregnancy? My sister-in-law is pregnant now, and the stress about whether to get a vaccine is making her lose sleep.
Yes, pregnancy is a time when we are especially cautious about what we put in our bodies and expose our growing baby to. There have been no reports of adverse events in pregnant women who have received the COVID-19 vaccine. Some misinformation has spread about danger during pregnancy, but actually, those who are pregnant and get COVID-19 are at much greater risk of severe illness and complications. In fact, a study of women across 18 countries showed that pregnant women with COVID were at higher risk of seizures, infections, early birth, and death than non-pregnant women.
And the baby is okay?
Risks may develop during pregnancy for many reasons, but the vaccine has not been linked to any health concerns for a baby before birth. The vaccine can actually protect the little one. The antibodies that the mother creates to fight the virus can be transferred to the baby during pregnancy and afterwards while breastfeeding. This is why it is recommended that vaccines are offered to pregnant and breastfeeding women.
I had never thought about that. Thank you for talking with me. This is a lot to think about. You hear so much every day. It's hard to know what is what.
Yes, it can be overwhelming. I can share some sources of information you can trust in case you have questions in the future, and you can always come to me. I hope our chat has helped clarify why the vaccine is worth considering.
Yes, I will think about this. Thank you.
Addressing other misinformation topics. Conversations about misinformation will be different with everyone we meet, but the approach can help us respond with accuracy and empathy in any situation. Let's take a look at several other myths and misinformation that may be common in your community. Myth: the vaccine will change my DNA. The vaccine ingredients, including mRNA, do not interact with our DNA and cannot change it. Myths about vaccines and DNA incorrectly assume that vaccine ingredients can freely pass to certain areas of our cells. But if a cell is like a city or town, the DNA is held in City Hall with a protective barrier around it. The mRNA is processed outside of City Hall and apart from the DNA. Once the mRNA is used to teach immune cells to recognize COVID-19, it breaks down and disappears from our bodies in about 3 days. Myth: I will get blood clots from the vaccine. Blood clots as a result of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine are extremely rare. Misinformation about this risk says that clots are more likely to happen than it actually does. In fact, there have been less than 50 confirmed cases of blood clots associated with the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine, while over millions of doses have been administered worldwide. In comparison, over 5 million people have died from COVID-19, and many may suffer from long-term complications. Clotting issues are actually one of the important risks associated with getting the COVID virus. Authorities have investigated the Johnson & Johnson vaccine data and determined that the risks associated with COVID-19 infections far outweigh the risk of experiencing complications from an extremely rare blood clot associated with a vaccine. People who receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccine are educated about symptoms to look for and other vaccine options, especially women younger than 50 years. Myth: people with weak immune systems should not get vaccinated. People living with conditions that affect their immune system should still be vaccinated. Some misinformation about effects of the vaccine on older people and those with weakened immune systems mistake the COVID-19 vaccine with other vaccines that contain live virus. The COVID-19 vaccine does not contain the live virus and is safe for these groups. In fact, the vaccine is especially important to protect people from COVID-19 who are more likely to develop complications from COVID-19 than others with healthy immune systems. That said, vaccines have different levels of effectiveness based on how well one's immune system functions. Still, any protection is better than no protection, and the benefits of being vaccinated far outweigh the risks of developing COVID-19. People should talk with their healthcare provider about their specific situation. For example, those receiving chemotherapy, blood transfusions, or living with HIV should ask about the best timing and options for the vaccine alongside their current treatments. Others who have healthy immune systems can protect those who do not by getting vaccinated. This forms a protective bubble around those who are at risk, making it much harder for them to get infected. This is called herd immunity, which we discuss in the video Virus and Vaccine 101. So, what can you do? Your knowledge and ability to communicate with members of the community can help correct and prevent the spread of misinformation. In your daily practice, you can use the strategies you've learned to quickly identify misinformation and ensure that the information that you share matches the latest evidence and aligns with the current recommendations. You can share the tips you have learned with people in your community to help them make informed judgment about information they hear. Share factual information in a compelling and compassionate way. Emphasizing accurate information using metaphors, story, or statistics can help replace misinformation with facts. Understanding someone's fears and concerns can help you tailor your message for more effective communication. Help prevent future spread of misinformation by warning people that they might be misinformed. Help people learn about what are reliable sources of information in the community and what to do if they are confused or fearful about the current recommendations. Reinforce the importance of pausing with a bit of doubt when information seems misleading and suggest resources to follow up, such as trusted health workers like you, for additional guidance.